Hello BookTube. Today I want to talk about the 8 volumes of manga that I read on Saturday. These 8 volumes I pre-ordered from Book People. What I do is every month I put in a pre-order with Book People for the following month's forthcoming volumes of manga in the series that I actively collect and first volumes of series that I would like to try out. So I've organized these books in the order that I read them and also in the way that I have them shelved in my collection. So let's get started. First up is Volume 4 of Kagurabachi by Takeru Hokazono. Kagurabachi is about a young man named Hiro, whose father was a blacksmith who specialized in crafting enchanted blades. 6 of these blades were instrumental in Japan's victory against a mysterious opponent in a magical war that took place sometime before the series began. After the war, Chihiro's father reclaimed these blades and stored them when one day a criminal organization of sorcerers called the Hikashu assassinated him and left Chihiro scarred. At the beginning of the series, Chihiro, wielding his father's final blade, the Enten, has joined forces with a friend of his father's to wreak vengeance on the Hikashu and to reclaim the stolen 6 swords. This volume sees Chihiro and Shiba, his father's friend, who's sort of become a mentor of Chihiro, team up with Hakuri Sazanami to reclaim one of the stolen swords, which has been put up for auction in an underworld auction run by the Sazanami clan. So at the end of Volume 3, in exchange for Hakuri, Chihiro surrendered his own blade to be placed in the auction. However, Chihiro had a plan, and so now he is assaulting the location where the auction is taking place, alongside Shiba and Hakuri as well. And I loved this volume. It was a ton of fun. I especially liked Hakuri's development throughout the course of this volume. But Chihiro also has some really cool moments, and there are a lot of really good fight scenes. The art is phenomenal. It's just like really, really fun. I am really enjoying this series immensely. I next read Volume 14 of DanDaDan by Yukinobu Tatsu. This is a series about 2 teenagers, Momo and Ken, who goes by the nickname Okuran. At the beginning of the series, Momo believes in the supernatural, but not in the extraterrestrial. And Okuran believes in the extraterrestrial, but not the supernatural. So they make a bet to go to a place that is haunted and visited by extraterrestrials and prove that the other one is lying or telling the truth. And they discover that in this setting, both the supernatural and the extraterrestrial exist. This encounter leaves both of them empowered. Aliens abduct Momo and unlock her latent psychic abilities. And Okuran gets possessed by an evil spirit called Turbo Granny that grants him super speed. Gradually, over the course of the series, Momo and Okuran build a close-knit friendship group with other people who have encountered the supernatural or the extraterrestrial. In this volume, is the culmination of a storyline that has been going through the last few volumes, in which an alien species has invaded Earth using battle suits. And Momo, Okuran, and their friends are fighting off these aliens and having some difficulty with it. And that battle comes to its amazing end in this volume. This volume was a ton of fun, especially how the aliens are driven off of Earth and completely defeated. It's wild. So one thing I love about this series is the double page spreads and the cityscapes. And the character work is also amazing. Just wow. Next, I read Dead Rock Volume 3 by Hiro Mashima. This is his current series. It's about a young man named Yakuto who is a student at Dead Rock, a school for demons and monsters who, if you survive long enough to graduate, will be granted a kingdom in the human world to become a demon king. The principal at Dead Rock is God, or at least a powerful entity claiming to be God, that Yakuto wishes to kill. And he's dragged along his classmates to help him, whether they want to or not. This volume begins with a battle in a library that becomes a labyrinth and ends in a trap that may not necessarily spell the end for Yakuto and his classmates. But one thing about this volume is that unlike a lot of Mashima's earlier work, this one is not as bloodless, particularly when it includes the main characters. Because normally in Hiro Mashima's works, very few people die. And if they do die, usually they are antagonists. But in Dead Rock, that's not the case. So that was a lot of fun. And I do want to show some art at the very... Oh, this is really good too. That there's a dragon at the end of this volume that is really wonderfully rendered. That was really good. Next is Jujutsu Kaisen, Volume 27 by Gege Akutami. So, Jujutsu Kaisen is about a young man named Yuji Itadori who joins his school's occult club. And the other members of the club find a cursed object, a rotten finger of an evil sorcerer named Ryomen Sukuna, who plagued the world 1,000 years ago. This cursed object attracts a cursed spirit, which attacks Yuji and his classmates. Student Jujutsu sorcerer named Megumi appears and takes on the cursed spirit, but he is having some difficulty. He is, after all, a student. So, Yuji decides he's going to help, and he ends up eating Sukuna's finger. This allows Sukuna to temporarily possess Yuji and kill the cursed spirit before turning on Megumi. This is when Gojo, Megumi's teacher, appears and subdues the Sukuna-possessed Yuji. When Yuji comes to, he is told that as a cursed object, he is going to be executed. However, Gojo has interceded on his behalf and has successfully argued that since Yuji has managed to not only survive but to resist Sukuna's possession, that maybe it would be a good idea to feed all of the remaining fingers of Sukuna, 19 of them, to pretty much completely contain Sukuna's essence within Yuji and then kill him. Yuji goes for this deal and enrolls in the Jujutsu Academy alongside Megumi. Things go to hell in a handbasket a few months later, which then further goes to hell in a handbasket a few months after that with the culling game, where a number of newly awakened sorcerers and reincarnated sorcerers are battling it out at the behest of an evil entity called Kenjaku, which also includes Sukuna escaping Yuji and possessing Megumi. And so this volume sees a number of sorcerers who have allied with Yuji and his friends engaging in a round-robin fight with Sukuna, who has defeated Gojo in the previous volume. And so that conflict, that arc, forms the bookend for this volume, as the main focus is between Nakaba, a comedian, he is the cover model for this volume, takes on Kenjaku in the most hilarious fight imaginable. It is just bananas. And it goes into a lot of characterization of Nakaba. It's hilarious. Okay. Next up is the first of volume 18s, because including Mission Yozakura Family, there were 3 18th volumes in my August manga haul. So first up is Four Nights of the Apocalypse, volume 18 by Nakaba Suzuki. So, Four Knights of the Apocalypse is the sequel series to Seven Deadly Sins. So, in Four Knights of the Apocalypse, four teenage superhumans are foretold to bring about the downfall of a corrupted King Arthur and his alternate dimension, Camelot. This volume begins with an assault on the fairy realm. At the end of an attempted infiltration of Camelot's dimension, Percival went into something of a coma. And the fellowship of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse and their companions broke up. For the following 2 years, one of Percival's companions, Nacians, has remained in the fairy realm, with Percival trying to wake him up. It's at this point that the fairy realm comes under attack by Waraldane, one of the four evils that serve King Arthur. And so the fairy giant royal family tries to beat back Waraldane and aren't quite successful, although Nacians and does put up one hell of a fight. And the threat to Nacians and the rest of the fairy royal family finally awakens Percival, and his return is amazing. And it is just, the conclusion of this fairy realm arc is amazing, particularly what it does for Nacian's character. And so the rest of the volume is the Percival platoon reuniting and going to pick up one of the other Four Knights of the Apocalypse, Gawain, who has moved into the Camelot dimension on a wild floating ship house. Now that was amazing. And that's just wonderful. So the other volume 18 I'm going to talk about is Sakamoto Days by Yuto Suzuki. So Sakamoto Days is about Takeru Sakamoto, a retired assassin who fell in love and opened up a convenience store. However, the assassination business has not left him behind. He has gradually, over the course of this series, gotten back into the business and has built up a small group of friends and allies to help him figure out who has put out a hit on him. This volume sees Sakamoto and his allies trying to defend a museum exhibit that is being visited by the chairman of the JAA from an organization led by X, who wishes to assassinate him. And so throughout this arc, the assassins serving X have come into conflict with the Order, the elite of the JAA, as well as Sakamoto and his allies. This volume focuses on a 3-on-3 fight between Shin, one of Sakamoto's closest allies, Amane, a student at the JCC, who was introduced in an earlier arc, and Shishiba, a member of the Order who uses a hammer as his weapon of choice. And they are fighting 3 members of X's gang. Also, at the beginning of the volume is the conclusion of Nagumo, a member of the Order's fight with Gaku, one of X's chief allies. And that fight was amazing, and this was just wild. Just lots of really cool fighting in here. Okay, next up is volume 6 of Snowball Earth by Yuhiro Tsujitsugu. So this is about a young man named Tetsuo who befriended a giant robot named Yukio that was designed to repel invasion of kaiju that in this world kind of attacked Earth. And before the series began, Tetsuo and Yukio and a fleet of Earth ships went out to fight off an assault of 20,000 kaiju. They lost. And when Tetsuo returns to Earth, it has been snowballed over. So Tetsuo and Yukio have made friends with the inhabitants of Mashima Mall, who, before this volume began, were leaving and moving to a new location when, in this volume, they are attacked by another kaiju. However, Tetsuo and Yukio are having some issues, and so let me see if I can find the character's name. Nayuta, the cover model of this volume, temporarily pilots Yukio, although it doesn't quite go well. And it's only when Tetsuo regains control that the tides turn against this other kaiju named Fimlar. And the volume ends on a cliffhanger, so that's Fimlar. Oh, yeah. And finally, the last of the 8, Astro Royale Volume 1 by Kin Wakui. So Astro Royale is about a young man named Hibaru who is the son of a Yakuza boss. He has 20 19 or 20 older adoptive brothers or siblings. I think there's at least one of them is a woman. And there's some controversy over who's going to be the next boss. Hibaru is a bit weird. Even though the family, the Yotsurugi, have largely legitimized themselves. They're no longer quite Yakuza. But Hibaru very much has a romantic view of what it means to be Yakuza. And so this puts him at odds with most of his siblings. When the series begins, their father has died. And Hibaru is the only one who knows who the next boss is going to be. Shortly after that, there is a asteroid strike. And this asteroid happens to grant people who were making a wish at the moment of impact, grants them superpowers. And it seems that most of the Yotsurugi family ends up gaining superpowers, as well as other people. And Hibaru, his power is that he can imbue one of his arms with immense super strength. Enough strength to punch a building away from him. And so when he comes to after a 2-week coma, the family is at civil war, and Hibaru decides to try to bring the family together, even if he has to beat the tar out of most of them. So much like Ken Wakui's more famous Tokyo Revengers, this is a series that focuses on the Japanese underworld, although this is a more fantasy-esque, a more romanticized version of it, I guess. That's the cover art for the first chapter. So there's the asteroid. There's him powering up. And boom. Yeah. So, and then he's got to start fighting his siblings and some of their goons. Oh yeah. So I think I will continue on with Volume 2. So I had a very, very great day of reading manga, even if Saturday was rather annoying. Which I will probably, I'll mention these 8 when I do weekly reads and maybe talk a bit about my annoyances over the course of this weekend that has led into today. Hopefully that doesn't ruin what I'm going to be reading this afternoon. Well, in a few hours. But anyway, BookTube, this did cheer me up a little bit, so I'm happy about that. Anyway, so before I sign off, I do want to mention how some of these books, these volumes, match up with the prompts for Shorty September. So all of them, of course, match up with patent leather shorts because they are all volumes of manga. They are also all match up to fashionista shorts because they are all in translation. Most of them also match up with ripped shorts as they are either thriller or horror. Four Nights of the Apocalypse also matches up with the one that is about a retelling. I'm blanking on what those shorts are. And also, I think Kulos, because I read them, I'll read all 8 of them in one day, so. And also, DanDaDan could match up with October because the aliens are basically octopuses. So, anyway, BookTube, I will be back tomorrow with hopefully a tag video that deals with 25 of my favorite songs. So, look forward to that. And until then, thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.